Hey, folks, welcome to another episode of Cutter One. I am your host, Jay, just Jay, your resident troublemaker and your resident culture warrior. I hope you are all doing well today, you awesome, beautiful badasses. I was going to drop the MFer right there, but I think it's too early in the video to go that route. But anyway, got another article to go over. And again, it was a busy day. Okay, a lot of articles to go over, but let's hop right into it. This one's coming to us from the good folks over at StartFX, and it is Rings of Power and The Witcher actually fail at diversity despite their ambitions. Let's see what they say. It happens when all you want to do is check boxes and not come up with a good story. Amazon's The Lord of the Rings of Power, as well as Netflix's The Witcher, have arguably been the most prominent example of media products that strive to promote diversity and criticize those who fail to share the sentiment. However, many people argue that even with their racially diverse casts and readiness to blast those who are not okay with that as racist, both The Rings of Power and The Witcher actually fail at their main goal. According to Redditor Brandon Marshall 2021, both Amazon and Netflix fail to back their diversity goals with actual layers that are not only about race, but also about culture. Quote, when you combine racial diversity with cultural diversity, it makes the world seem more real and authentic. When you only provide racial diversity without cultural diversity, it just seems out of place in a European medieval sword and shield setting, the Redditor explained. Without backing racial diversity with visible cultural differences, Amazon and Netflix may be trying to, quote, depict an ideal society made up with many races, but with a homogeneous language and culture, unquote. However, such an idea is only good for the real world, and not the fictional worlds of Middle-earth and Rivia. Quote, I think just like we celebrate and enjoy stories that focus on POC races and cultures, e.g., Black Panther, Shang-Chi, and the awesome movie Prey, Comanches, then we should also be allowed to celebrate stories with white European settings like in The Witcher and Tolkien, the Redditor concluded. Fans of both The Witcher and The Rings of Power have blasted the shows for implementing racial diversity without bothering to make sure that it will work within the lore of the universes created by John R.R. Tolkien and Andrei Sapkowski. Showrunners, in turn, respond to criticism largely by claiming that those who are not okay with characters of color in fictional worlds are simply racist, the response that only triggered fans even more. The Rings of Power is already filming its second season, while The Witcher is set to return for season 3 with Liam Hemsworth instead of Henry Cavill in the titular role. And the author is Louise Everett. I secretly think Louise Everett is one of us. Because she's actually calling it out for what it is. And so did this Redditor, this Brandon Marshall 2021. Good on you, sir, for calling it out what it is. I mean, it's true. And you guys who have been following the channel here know that's what I've been saying. Where's Arondir's other black elves? Like, what elvish tribe is he from that have black elves? Where are they from? Where are the other black elves? You literally gave us one token black elf. And the same thing with Disa. You gave us one token. You gave us one token black dwarf. You know, where are the others? What's their story? Why are they black? Or in Ismael Cordova's case, you know, dark-skinned Latino. Okay. And nobody else is. Right? Like, and again, like I said in other videos, at least throw me a bone. Give me something that I can try to wrap my head around that has some resemblance to making sense of all this, right? And when I call you out on that, or me and others, when fans call you out on that, you know, the go-to thing is, oh, well, we're just racist. You just don't want to see any people of color in your white fantasy world. No. Like I said, I was the one I've been saying from day one, and I will say it again. Tolkien gave you a way to include all the ethnic diversity you desire. He gave us the East and the Easterlings. He gave us the South and the Southrons and Haradrim. Okay, he gave us a lot to play with. You could literally have done shows in Harad with the Haradrim or with the Easterlings that your cast could have been almost exclusively non-white and still been within the lore. You just chose not to because that's not going to make you a lot of money, right? That's not going to make you a lot of money. That's why you put Harfoots, quote unquote, like they were saying for the longest time, proto hobbits. Well, Harfoots are hobbits. Okay, read the chapter called "Concerning Hobbits" or "On Concerning Hobbits." They are hobbits. They are not proto hobbits. They are hobbits. Okay, and you put them in there simply because fans like hobbits, or at least fans of the movies like the hobbits, right, and books as well. But so you sort of shoehorn them in there. Okay, but in terms of the race thing, yeah, again, you know, you don't see people complaining that Wakanda's too black, right? You don't, you don't, and you didn't see anybody complaining that Shang-Chi was too Asian, right? And nobody complained that the movie Prey was too Native American, right? You don't see the complaints coming that way. We're saying, well, where's your diversity and representation? All the people in Wakanda is black. You got to have some white folk up in that Wakanda, from a representations, yo. Okay, you don't see anybody doing that. Why? Because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Okay? Same thing with Shang-Chi and same thing with Prey. Although I do think it's funny because they mentioned the Comanches in Prey. And Prey sort of suffered the same thing that the Woman King suffered from. And that is, if you read the actual history of the people that are portrayed in the movie, you realize that the people that they chose to portray in the movie, kind of assholes. Okay? In the Woman King, it was that the Home tribe, the Home tribe, who actually were they built their empire on slavery, of gathering slaves from the surrounding African tribes and then selling them to the white slave traders, right? Conveniently don't go in depth in calling out Viola Davis's character and them slavers, for lack of a better term, right? They sort of gloss over that part of the history. Well, Prey, which follows that female Comanche warrior and the predator thing, what most people don't know is the Comanches were considered like the Dahomey or almost like the National Socialists of the Native American tribes. The Comanches would be known to wage war on surrounding tribes, kill all the men, take the women, and use them, or use them as slaves. And the same thing with the children. The Comanches were not a nice people. We here in America and North America, have this sort of fixation on the whole noble Indian thing, until you look into the history of some of the tribes. Now, before anybody gets their panties in a fucking bunch, okay, because I could already see somebody going, how dare you? I am part Yaqui Indian. And for those who don't know, it's Yaqui. It's a Yaqui, Yaqui Indian, who are Southern Apache Indians. They are tribes that were mainly in what would now be south of the U.S.-Mexico border, but they were sort of like cousin tribes of the Apaches of that area, but in the southern part. So I know a little bit. Again, it's not a big part of my personal ethnic makeup, if you will, but I do have some. Right, and when I say some, I'm not talking like 1/150,000th of a drop of genetic material. No, I'm talking. I can go back to like great grandparents on that level. So, at least according to Ancestry.com. But so the Comanches were not nice guys. But I got off topic there. The point I'm trying to make is that I agree with the article. It's you can't just stick a single black character, a black elf or a black dwarf in there, and then call it a day and say, all right, we've got our diversity, because all that does is come across as you're just checking boxes, and you're tokenizing, whether you want to or not, you're tokenizing those characters. Token, not Tolkien. You're tokenizing those characters because you haven't built any backstory for them. You haven't given them a culture, like the article says. You've sort of given them the traits of being culturally unique, but you haven't given them a unique culture to go with that cultural uniqueness, if that makes sense. So I agree with the article. I think they come up short, and I think it's stupid. It proves, when Hollywood is more concerned about like fitting the agenda and checking off the boxes than actual story and plot and having things make sense within the universe. And to me, it's one more thing that takes away from the show. But anyway, what do I know? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think that they should have built more of a backstory for Arondir or Disa? Do you think it's important that they, in addition to having the ethnic diversity, that they should have had built some cultural diversity for these characters instead of just plopping them in there? And do you think that if we're going to say that a European medieval sword and shield setting needs diversity to be adapted to the screen, that we should in turn start realistically thinking that things like Black Panther or shows like Shang-Chi or Prey also need to have some ethnic diversity in their main cast of characters as well, right? It would seem like if that's the goal, it would be across the board, right? If the goal is my representation, my diversities, I would think you would want to do that across the board, right? Whether it was a traditionally black, culture, society that you're showing, i.e., like in Black Panther, fictional, but traditionally black in its original fictional form, and just like Tolkien was originally white in his original fictional form. If we're going for diversity and representation, shouldn't we want that across the board? Right? I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just thinking, like, what are the rules? We need to establish some sort of rules here, right? Like, are we doing this across the board, or are we only doing it with these largely white franchises, right? Are we only trying to get rid of the overly white franchises, i.e., Middle Earth, other franchises, and if that's the case, well, why would we want to do that? What's the motivation there? Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. It would be interesting to hear what you guys have to say. Anyway, if you like the video, give the video a like. If you feel like sharing a video, go ahead and do so. It helps get seen by more people. If you have not subscribed, I hope that you would consider subscribing and join the conversation, and it helps us with the algorithm and does the whole thing where it gets pushed out by YouTube a little bit more, so that would help. And if you are a returning subscriber, thank you very much for being such a beautiful badass and helping the channel in every way possible. You guys are awesome. Remember to be good, be safe, be awesome. I will see you on the next one. Peace.